why practice sessions don't really work for your overall pace. You open up the sim, you pick your main car, you start a practice session, practice feels productive. You find breaking points, you get into some sort of a rhythm, and you reach your usual lap time. And then you stop. After obsessing over my own pace the last 2-3 months, I noticed something. Lone practice sessions rarely make you faster. I've been sim racing for years. I've created multiple car setups in different simulators. And in this video, I will show my experience, how I gain lap time, how do I improve. So this video is important when you're kind of advancing. This is not for people that start the sim for the first time and don't know where to brake. This is more advanced. So let's get into it. I'm not saying that practice sessions are absolutely useless. There is a time and a place to do them. I think you can use them for setup tweaks, testing cars, trying vastly different driving approaches, using it with friends to copy lines. But driving perfect laps alone is not where the real gains come from. That's basically hot lapping. And don't get me wrong, I like hot lapping too, but the gains are not there. I mean, I can hot lap for days and just be stuck on a certain lap time. I'm going to explain why that might be, why that progression isn't in doing these lone practices. Before we move on with the video, you really need to understand that you need to have the incentive and the goal in mind that you really want to improve. It doesn't matter how small these gains are, it being on racecraft, it being on how you handle yourself in traffic or lap time in general. You really need this invisible urgency in yourself to actually wanting to improve. With lone practice, there's nothing at stake. You can restart from the pits, you don't lose rating, and you don't have someone behind you putting pressure on you. But in races, you see competitors, you see different lines. You're trying to stay close. Your brain reacts different. Now you have something to lose. And that pressure becomes important for improvement. Your brain becomes a problem-solving machine when the race gets tight. I'm doing these races on Fuji at the moment, and I'm usually in split 1. And what I found that when I started this race on Sprint Cup with the Lexus, I get a practice session and I drove like a 141.4, and I did a minor setup tweak. I added 1 millimeter of packer, and I could really feel this in a certain corner. So I did the qualifying and I got like a P6, a similar lap time. Then the race started and I consistently did the same lap times on a 50% fuel, very much my own limit. A good race, 1 freebie, like in 1 turn, 1 mistake, you lose a position if you're in split 1. So, and that's the thing, you can't make mistakes at this level. 1 apex missed means immediate danger of losing a position. Executing perfect corners gets you maybe 0.2 gain every lap, 1 minor mistake, and you lose all of your gains. That's how challenging it actually is. And that feeling of pressure and performance you don't get in practice. You can't replicate that. The stakes are high. Your brain reacts accordingly. See your brain as this problem-solving machine that helps you out in these tight races. Now, you don't get a lot of gains from 1 race, but if you do 3 of them with a time in between, like you take a rest for a few hours and then you come back at it again and do these races again, and maybe tomorrow or the day after you do the same combo again. In the second race, this footage, same story, high split, same setup, same conditions, and my quali lap was actually below a 41, 40.9. How did we improve in quali? Because the race before, everything now is more familiar. You can see the track and your car in more resolution. You see corner entry as 3 parts, but now you see there are actually 5 parts to that entry. That particular spot where I need to brake a bit more or to get a bit better exit speed. You'll see that in multiple parts on the track when you race the same car and track combo a couple of times. With proper competition, this kind of happens automatically. In the race, we got consistent laps of 41.1s and even a purple lap in a few sectors, and we ended up P3 only a few seconds slower than the leader. Now, at the time of recording this, I could have raced this format for days and days at the time and become some sort of a champion at Fuji at some point. And the time gains will diminish over time, of course, as you get closer to the absolute limit, but improvements could be doing like 140s in the race instead of doing 41s with like some consistency. I had the same experience in HSC 2. Keep doing that race with that same car and track combo and you'll get super sharp at this point. Gains go more slowly over time, but I see this progression everywhere when I stick to a certain format. And these gains are born in these races, not in the practices. When you refine your inputs in these races, you get to the point where you really want a setup change in the car. You might want to run a bit less wing. You might want to shift even more brake bias rearwards. And at some point, even damper stiffness, you want to gain at the rear because you want more rotation all of a sudden. As your skill compounds, you might want to see your setup get even more aggressive. When you do this over time, your setup will get sharper, and at some point you start sharing that setup with a beginner driver and they might be impossible for them to drive that setup. Now here's the tricky part. If you take a big break from sim racing, that same setup might become too aggressive for you too, because you're getting so close to that limit, and that limit is also something you need to maintain. You really can get rusty, believe it or not. But the level setups on my website are for a great part still designed for myself, because I need to switch cars a lot, and I switch from like different activities, not just the racing but also the content. And sometimes when I pick my own level 5s, which are like the highest level hierarchy, I sometimes spin them too much. I'm like, man, it's too hard. And I use level 3s myself, a less aggressive setup. Of course, if I keep driving my same car, I might create level 6s, but when I switch cars and jump into races, I usually take that level 3, and then I might later pivot to my 4 or 5 setups. And when you're really like exploring new territory in your lap time, or you get better results in these races, you rank up these splits, then when you switch a car, for instance, you'll sometimes just lose out on a lot of lap time because you're so like aligned with how your car drives and how your setup is, and that track combo. So that's why there's always also a part where you start switching cars a lot. You just lose a lot of that refinement and sharpness in how you drive the car and that track combo. However, it is good to switch cars every now and then, because I think different cars will also make you better. And what I also now have discovered, my driving got a lot better. My GD3 car driving got a lot better. Now I also driving a lots of hypercars, and it gives me like different techniques I need to learn, which eventually creates a better overall skill in my inputs and in my driving. If you're liking this kind of video, could you please hit the like button, check the description for skill level setups, and if you want to have 25 tips that will help to compound your race results, check out this video, 25 tips to get better results in your races.